The scent of baking bread and Sarah's favorite lavender soap clung to our small apartment, a comfort I'd come to associate with home. Every morning I'd watch the city wake from our kitchen window, the sun painting the brick buildings across the street in hues of orange and gold. Sarah, my Sarah, would be humming at the stove, flipping pancakes, her blonde hair catching the light. We had a rhythm, a quiet understanding that hummed beneath the surface of our lives, as steady as the city's pulse. Morning, sleepyhead, she'd say, a smile playing on her lips, not quite reaching her eyes yet, but it would. It always did. Morning, gorgeous, I'd reply, pulling her close, inhaling the scent of her. She'd lean into me, a soft sigh escaping her. That sigh, that subtle yielding of her body against mine, was my daily affirmation. It told me we were solid, an unbreakable unit against the world. Our dreams were big, painted in broad strokes across our shared future. A house with a garden, maybe a dog, definitely a kid or two. We'd spend hours on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, scrolling through Zillow listings we couldn't afford yet, pointing out sunrooms and master suites. Look at this one, Ben. Imagine Lily, our daughter, playing in that yard. Her voice, full of light, made it real. I'd nod, my heart swelling. It'll happen, babe. We're building it, brick by brick. And we were. I worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3, pulling shifts at the construction site during the day, and slinging drinks at O'Malley's pub until last call. My hands were calloused, my back often ached, but the fatigue was a badge of honor. Extra dollar was a step closer to that house, to that garden, to Lily playing in a sun-drenched yard. Sarah, a graphic designer, poured her energy into her freelance work, her laptop a constant companion. We were a team, devoted, loyal, our eyes fixed on the horizon we were building together. Loyalty, that was the core. It was the bedrock of everything. Then, a subtle chill began to creep in, like a draft under a closed door. It wasn't a sudden storm, more like the slow, almost imperceptible turn of the season. Her humming at the stove became less frequent. The morning kisses, once lingering, turned into quick pecks, sometimes just a brush of her cheek against mine. Rough night, I'd ask, noticing the shadows under her eyes, the way her shoulders seemed to slump even when she was sitting up straight. Just tired, I guess. Deadlines, you know, she'd murmur, not looking up from her coffee. I'd nod, understanding. Work could be relentless. But then, the small touches, the casual brushes of our hands, the way she used to lean into me on the couch, those faded too. My arm would reach for her, only to find her already shifted away, engrossed in her phone. A faint glow illuminating her face in the dark. What's so interesting? I'd try, a lightness in my voice that didn't quite match the tightening in my chest. Oh, just work stuff. Client emails, she'd reply, her thumb flying across the screen, a faint click-clack. Echoing in the quiet room, her voice was flat, distant. The spark, the easy laughter we once shared, felt muffled, like it was trapped behind a thick pane of glass. When I tried to bridge the gap, to pull her close, she'd stiffen, a subtle resistance in her muscles. Hey, everything all right? I'd whisper, my lips near her ear, a hopeful plea in my tone. Just tired, Ben. Really tired. Her voice always so warm now, felt like a cold stone. I'd pull back, a knot forming in my stomach. The silence that followed wasn't comfortable anymore. It was heavy, laden with unspoken things. My brother Mark started showing up more often. He was always around, even before, but now his presence felt. He'd drop by, unannounced, ostensibly to see me, but his eyes would always find Sarah first. Hey, Sarah Bear. What's cooking good looking? His usual loud self. But there was a new warmth in his tone, a playful lilt I hadn't noticed before. And Sarah, my quiet, distant Sarah, would blossom. A genuine laugh, a bright, unrestrained sound I hadn't heard in weeks, would spill from her lips. Mark, you're just in time. I made your favorite. Cookies. Her eyes would sparkle, her shoulders would relax. She'd offer him a hug, a quick squeeze that seemed to last just a beat too long. I'd watch a strange mix of relief and unease swirling within me. It's relief that she was smiling, unease that it wasn't me making her smile like that. "You two are thick as thieves these days," I'd joke, trying to mask the edge in my voice. "Just catching up, Ben. Sarah's got the best advice." "She's a genius, really," Mark would say, his arm slung casually around her shoulder. She'd lean into his touch, a soft hum escaping her. That hum used to be reserved for me. They'd share inside jokes, their eyes meeting over my head, a silent language passing between them. I'd be in the kitchen, making coffee, and I'd hear their whispered conversations from the living room. Low, conspiratorial tones, punctuated by soft giggles from Sarah. A pang, sharp and unexpected, would pierce my chest. The gut feeling, that primal instinct, began to gnaw at me. It started as a whisper, a faint doubt, but it grew into a roar. Late-night texts, her phone always face down, always clutched tight. If I walked into the room, she'd snatch it up. A quick flick of her thumb, and the screen would go dark. "Who was that?" I'd asked, trying to sound casual, but my voice felt tight, strained. "Oh, just my sister. Planning a surprise party for Mom," she'd say too. Quickly, her eyes darting away. Her sister lived 3 states away and rarely texted past 8. One night, I woke to the soft glow of her phone in the dark. She was on her side, facing away from me, her thumb dancing across the screen. I lay still, my breath held, listening. A soft sigh, then a small, almost imperceptible giggle escaped her lips. My heart hammered against my ribs. I closed my eyes, feigning sleep, but my mind was racing. The next morning, the air between us felt thick, heavy with unspoken questions. I watched her, a stranger in my own home. Her movements were stiff, her eyes evasive. I felt like a detective, piecing together fragments of a puzzle I didn't want to solve. Whispers, late-night calls she'd take in the bathroom, the water running loudly, the scent of a cologne that wasn't mine, faintly clinging to her clothes. Sometimes, it wasn't Mark's usual scent, but it was similar enough to make my stomach churn. The proof arrived like a wrecking ball. It was a Tuesday, a day off from the construction site, and I was home early. Sarah was out, supposedly, at a client meeting. Her laptop lay open on the kitchen counter, a habit she'd picked up recently, leaving it on, logged in. I walked past it, heading for the fridge, when a notification popped up on the screen. An email from Mark. My breath hitched. I hesitated, my hand hovering over the mouse. Every fiber of my being screamed to look away, to walk away, to preserve the fragile peace I was clinging to. But the gut feeling, now a frantic siren, pushed me forward. My fingers trembled as I clicked. The subject line read, "Missing you already." My vision blurred. I clicked on the email. It was short, sickeningly sweet. "Hey, my love. Just got home. Still replaying last night. You were incredible. Can't wait for Friday. Thinking of you, Em. Incredible, and my love." Friday. The words punched the air out of my lungs. My knees buckled, and I leaned against the counter, the cold formica pressing into my back. My world, the solid, unwavering world I had built, shattered into a million pieces. The smell of baking bread, the lavender soap, the hum of the city, they all turned rancid. My Sarah, my Mark, the 2 people I loved and trusted most in the world. Betrayal. It wasn't a whisper anymore, it was a scream, silent, agonizing scream inside my head. My eyes fixated on the screen, rereading the words, each one a fresh stab to the heart. The email was so casual, so confident, so utterly devoid of guilt. It was a confirmation, cold and brutal. The air in the apartment felt thin, suffocating. I couldn't breathe. I stumbled to the bathroom, splashing cold water on my face. But the image of the email, Mark's words. Sarah's betrayal was seared behind my eyelids. A reflection stared back, a stranger with haunted eyes. My jaw was clenched so tight it ached. I found Mark at our usual pub, O'Malley's. The familiar clatter of glasses, the murmur of conversations, the faint scent of stale beer, it all felt alien. Distorted? He was laughing with the bartender, a wide, easy grin on his face, oblivious. A red mist clouded my vision. My hands clenched into fists, my knuckles white. I walked towards him, each step heavy, deliberate. "Mark, we need to talk now." My voice was low, flat, devoid of emotion. He turned, his smile faltering as he saw my face. "Whoa, Ben? What's up? You look like you've seen a ghost." I grabbed his arm, my grip like iron, and pulled him towards the back booths, away from the prying eyes and ears. He stumbled, surprised, his eyes widening. "What the hell, man?" I leaned across the table, my voice a dangerous whisper. "You know what the hell, Mark, don't you?" He looked genuinely confused. Then a flicker of understanding, a shadow, crossed his face. He swallowed hard. "Hey, I don't know what you're talking about. Missing you already, my love. You were incredible." Sound familiar? His face drained of color. He opened his mouth, then closed it. His eyes darted around, anywhere but at me. "Ben, listen, I can explain." "Explain what, Mark?" "Explain how you betrayed your own brother. Explain how you screwed my wife. Explain how you looked me in the eye, shared meals, laughed with me, all while you were doing this behind my back." My voice rose, raw with pain, but I kept it low enough that only he could hear. The tremor in my hands was barely controlled. "It wasn't like that, Ben. It just happened. We didn't mean for it to." He tried to reach for my hand, but I recoiled as if burned. "Didn't mean for it to? You think this just happens? This isn't some accident?" "Mark, this is a choice. A deliberate, calculated choice to lie, to deceive, to destroy everything I built."
Ow.
My voice cracked on the last word. The denial, the pathetic excuses, were more painful than the affair itself. He couldn't even look me in the eye. "I'm sorry, Ben. I really am. She said you two weren't happy, that you were drifting apart." A bitter laugh escaped me, a harsh, humorless sound. "And you believed her?" "You, my brother, believed her over me. Did you ever once think to ask me? To talk to me?" He shook his head, his gaze fixed on the table. I messed up. I know, I'm a terrible brother. Terrible doesn't even begin to cover it, Mark. You're dead too. Me, you understand? Dead." My voice was flat, final. I pushed myself away from the table, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. The noise made a few heads turn. I didn't care. I walked out, leaving him alone in the dim light of the pub, the echoes of his pathetic apologies ringing in my ears. The crushing weight of betrayal settled deep in my bones. I didn't explode. I didn't scream. I didn't even raise my voice when Sarah walked through the door later that evening, humming a light tune, oblivious. My anger had calcified into something cold, hard, and utterly silent. I detached, emotionally checked out. "Hey, honey. The client meeting ran late, but it was productive," she chirped, dropping her bag on the floor. She smiled, a fake smile that didn't reach her eyes. I merely nodded, not looking up from the newspaper I was pretending to read. The silence that followed was thick, heavy, suffocating. She hesitated, her smile faltering. "Everything okay, Ben? Peachy?" My voice was flat, devoid of inflection. I turned a page, the rustle of paper unnaturally loud in the quiet room. She tried again. "You seem quiet, just thinking." "About what?" "Life, choices, consequences." I kept my eyes on the page, my jaw tight. She shifted uncomfortably, the sound of her clothes rustling loud in the quiet. She knew then. She had to. She walked away, into the kitchen, the clatter of dishes, a jarring counterpoint to the silence between us. I heard her sigh. Long, drawn-out sound of frustration. I didn't react. I ate dinner in silence, pushing food around my plate. She tried to make conversation, small talk about her day, about the weather. I offered one-word answers, my gaze fixed on a point beyond her shoulder. Later in bed, she reached for me, her hand brushing my arm. I flinched, imperceptibly, but enough. She pulled her hand back as if burned. The mattress dipped as she turned away from me, her back to my side. I stared at the ceiling, the anger a cold, hard lump in my chest. I felt nothing but a vast emptiness where love and trust once resided. I was a ghost in my own home, haunting the spaces we once shared. The silence was my shield, my weapon. It was the only way I could breathe. The fallout was swift, brutal, and entirely one-sided. Sarah, surprisingly, didn't try to deny it when I finally laid out the email, the dates, the whispered conversations. She simply burst into tears, a dramatic, gut-wrenching wail that sounded entirely too practiced. "How could you even think that, Ben? After everything we've been through? I thought you trusted me." She sobbed, clutching her chest. I stared at her, my face a mask of stone. "I trusted you with my life, Sarah. You shattered it." She crumpled, collapsing onto the couch, her shoulders shaking. He manipulated me, Ben. Mark was always so charming, so insistent. I was vulnerable and he took advantage. I tried to push him away, I swear, it meant nothing. Her voice was high-pitched, desperate, punctuated by gasps and sniffles. The performance was Oscar-worthy and everyone bought it. My parents. Her parents, our mutual friends, they all rallied around her, the heartbroken victim. My mother, her eyes swimming with tears, called me, "Ben, what is wrong with you?" Sarah is devastated. She says you're being cold, distant. She's so fragile right now. She admitted she made a mistake, a moment of weakness. Can't you forgive her? For the sake of your marriage, your future? Mistake, Mom. She slept with my brother. That's not a mistake. That's a betrayal. My voice was tight, strained. But Mark, he's your brother. He says he feels terrible that he got carried away. He's always been a bit wild. You know that. But he loves you, Ben. He'd never intentionally hurt you. Deaf too. Forgive him too. My jaw clenched. Forgive him? For what, Mom? For stabbing me in the back? No, he's dead to me. Den, don't be so dramatic. Think about what you're saying.
Ow.
You'll regret this. Her voice was sharp, laced with disappointment. Friends called, offering unsolicited advice, their voices laced with judgment. Come on, man, cut her. Some slack. People make mistakes. She's clearly remorseful. Don't throw away years over one. Lapse. One lapse. The phrase echoed in my head, mocking me. I stopped answering calls, stopped going to family dinners. I became an island, surrounded by a sea of accusations and pity. Sarah played the victim perfectly, weeping on cue, posting cryptic, heartbroken messages on social media about unseen battles and forgiveness. The narrative was clear. I was the cruel, unforgiving husband, abandoning his fragile wife. After a moment of weakness, the weight of their collective judgment was heavy, but it only solidified my resolve. Their side, her side, it didn't matter. I knew the truth, and I would find my peace. The strategic exit began quietly, meticulously, like a covert operation. While Sarah was busy playing the aggrieved wife to our mutual circle, I was moving. My first call was to a divorce lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Eleanor Vance, recommended by a colleague at the construction site. Her office was austere, functional, and offered a welcome contrast to the emotional chaos of my life. "Mr. Miller, tell me everything," she'd said, her voice calm, steady, like a lifeline. I laid it all out. The subtle shifts, Mark's increased presence, the late-night texts, the email, showed her screenshots, dates, times. I had started documenting everything the moment I found the email, a cold, calculated response to the emotional devastation. Excellent. Documentation is key. This proves marital misconduct, which will be significant in asset division and potential alimony, Alona stated, her pen scratching against a legal pad. Next was finances. I opened a new, separate bank account. I started diverting. A portion of my paychecks there, small amounts at first, then larger ones. I made sure to pay off my individual credit card debts, consolidating what I could. I researched apartment rentals, quietly, online, far from our current neighborhood. I began packing small, essential items, old photo albums, important documents, a few cherished books into boxes, and storing them at a friend's place, swearing him to secrecy. Every transaction, every move, was carefully considered, a step towards severing the ties that bound me to a lie. The emotional exit was harder, but necessary. I stopped engaging, stopped reacting. Her tears, her pleas, her accusations, they washed over me like water off a duck's back. I became a ghost in our apartment, moving through the rooms, eating, sleeping, working, but never truly present. My focus was on the future, on the peace I knew I deserved. The quiet planning, the methodical steps towards freedom, became my anchor. I was building a new foundation, brick by painstaking brick, and this time, it would be built on solid ground. The confrontation, when it came, was calm, almost surgical. Eleanor had advised me to wait, to gather my strength, to let the shock subside. I waited until the divorce papers were drafted, until my new apartment was secured, until my finances were fully separated. It was a Saturday morning, a week after I'd moved my last box. Sarah was still in bed, probably nursing a hangover from another support group night with her friends. I walked into the bedroom. The morning light streaming through the blinds, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. She stirred, blinking awake, her eyes puffy. "Ben, what are you doing here? I thought you were out." Her voice was groggy. I stood at the foot of the bed, a manila folder in my hand. "We need to talk, Sarah, for real this time." My voice was steady, emotionless. She sat up, pulling the covers higher, a flicker of unease in her eyes. "What is it? You're scaring me? You know what it is?" I opened the folder, pulling out the printed email. Screenshots of late-night texts, the dates and times of Mark's visits. I laid them on the bed, one by one, like playing cards. "This is the email from Mark. Missing you already, my love. You were incredible. This is the text where you told him you'd handle Ben. This is the one where you planned your secret rendezvous at the hotel downtown." Her eyes darted from the papers to my face, her color, draining, her lips trembled. "Ben, I can explain." "No, you can't. There's nothing to explain. It's all here. The dates, the times, the words, all of it." My voice was still calm, but it held the weight of steel. "I'm not here for an explanation. I'm here for a resolution." I slid a stack of papers across the bed towards her. "These are the divorce papers. They're final. I've already moved out. I've secured a new apartment. My finances are separate. But you have until the end of the month to vacate this apartment. It's in my name, and I'm selling it." Her mouth opened, a silent gasp escaping. Her eyes widened, tears welling, but they didn't fall. This wasn't the reaction she expected. This wasn't the emotional outburst she could manipulate. You're just leaving? It's just like that?" Her voice was a strangled whisper. "Just like that. You made your choices, Sarah. You chose him. You chose to lie. You chose to betray everything we built. Now you get to live with those choices." I paused, letting my words sink in. "And Mark has been served too. He'll be hearing from my lawyer regarding his involvement in the dissolution of our assets." Her eyes snapped to mine, a flash of genuine fear. "His involvement? What are you talking about?" "He benefited from our shared resources, Sarah. He knew he was destroying a marriage. There are legal consequences for that, too. He'll learn." My voice was cold and final. I turned and walked out, leaving her amidst the crumpled sheets, surrounded by the stark evidence of her deceit. The air was thick with her unspoken questions, her dawning realization. The silence that followed was deafening, but this time it was my peace. The reputation war began almost immediately. Sarah, having exhausted her tearful victim act with me, turned it on the world. Her social media became a carefully curated gallery of heartbreak. Cryptic posts about cruel betrayals and unjustified abandonment replaced her usual upbeat content. Friends, both hers and our mutual ones, started unfollowing me or sending me passive-aggressive messages. "I can't believe you'd do this to her, Ben. She's completely broken. Some people just don't know how to forgive." Sad, really. I let silence work for me. I didn't engage, didn't post a single word. I didn't defend myself. My lawyer, Eleanor, had advised me against it. Let her spin her narrative, Mr. Miller. The truth will come out in court, and that's the only place it matters. Meanwhile, Mark, true to form, tried to play the hero. He started publicly consoling Sarah, posting saccharine comments on her posts, subtly reinforcing her victimhood. Stay strong, Sarah. You deserve so much better. He even had the audacity to call my parents, spinning a tale of how I was emotionally unstable and lashing out. My parents, bless their hearts, were caught in the middle. My mother, still convinced I was being overly dramatic, tried to mediate. Ben, she's saying terrible things about you. Can't you just talk to her? Clear the air? There's nothing to clear, Mom. The air is perfectly clear. She cheated. He facilitated. End of story. My voice was calm and steady. I refused to be drawn into the mudslinging. I knew the truth. That was enough. My silence became my armor, deflecting their accusations, their pity, and their judgment. Let them talk. Let them believe what they wanted. I was focused on justice, not public opinion. The quiet hum of my new life, free from the constant anxiety of her deceit, was a far sweeter sound than any public vindication. The divorce proceedings were grim but efficient, thanks to Eleanor. Sarah, still clinging to her victim narrative, fought for every penny, every shared possession. She painted me as an uncaring monster, a man who had abandoned his wife and her. Moment of vulnerability. She even tried to claim emotional distress, citing my coldness as a form of abuse. Her lawyer, a slick, smarmy man who seemed to relish the theatricality of it all, presented her case with dramatic flair. But Eleanor, my rock, was relentless. She presented the evidence, the email, the texts, and the detailed timeline I had meticulously kept. She brought up the financial drain Mark had been on our shared accounts, the loans he'd never repaid, and the lavish gifts Sarah had bought him with our money. The judge, a stoic woman with sharp eyes, listened, unswayed by Sarah's tears or her lawyer's histrionics. The verdict was a quiet triumph. I won more than expected in court. The apartment, our primary asset, was awarded to me, along with a significant portion of our joint savings. Citing Sarah's marital misconduct and the financial burden Mark had imposed, alimony was denied. She was left with what she had brought into the marriage, which wasn't much. The gavel struck, a sharp, definitive sound that echoed in the quiet courtroom. Sarah's face crumpled. A choked sob escaped her, a genuine sound of despair this time. Her lawyer looked stunned. My eyes met Eleanor's, and she gave me a small, almost imperceptible nod. Justice. As for Mark, the legal notice I'd sent through Eleanor regarding his financial obligations hit him hard. He tried to deny everything, to claim I was crazy, that it was all a misunderstanding. But the evidence, the paper trail of his loans and Sarah's gifts, was undeniable. He ended up having to pay back a substantial sum to me, a bitter pill he was forced to swallow. My parents, faced with the cold, hard facts presented in court, finally saw the truth. My mother called, her voice thick with remorse. Ben, I am so sorry. We were so wrong. We didn't know. My father, usually so stoic, simply said, "You did the right thing, son. We're proud of you." Mark, however, was disowned. Not by me, but by my parents. They couldn't stomach his betrayal, his callous disregard for his own brother. He tried to reach out to apologize, but his calls went unanswered. His texts were ignored. The silence, once my weapon, had become a family decision. My peace, hard won, was finally settling in. The aftermath was a strange blend of quietude and burgeoning hope. Peaceful loneliness, I called it. The apartment felt vast without Sarah's things, but it also felt lighter, unburdened by the weight of deceit. I sold it quickly, moving into a smaller, cozier place across town. The scent of lavender soap was replaced by the clean, crisp smell of fresh paint. I threw myself into a new routine. Mornings started with a run along the river, the cool air filling my lungs. The rhythmic thump-thump of my feet on the pavement, a soothing mantra. The gym became my sanctuary, with the clank of weights and the burn in my muscles, a healthy outlet for the lingering anger and sadness. My body, once tired and aching from constant work, began to transform, becoming stronger and leaner. I started journaling, pouring out the raw emotions onto paper. The pain, the anger, the confusion, the eventual acceptance. Honest and incredibly therapeutic. I also found a good therapist, a kind, patient woman who helped me untangle the knots of betrayal and rebuild my sense of self-worth. "It's okay to feel angry, Ben. It's okay to grieve. Don't let it define you," she'd say, her voice soft, understanding. I traveled, a backpacking trip through South America, then a solo road trip through the national parks. The vastness of the landscapes, the anonymity of new cities, and the freedom of the open road, it was exhilarating. I met strangers, shared stories, and laughed until my sides ached. I learned to cook, to really cook, experimenting with new flavors, finding joy in the simple act of creation. I read books, devoured documentaries, and learned to play the guitar badly, but with immense satisfaction. My world, once small and suffocating, expanded, filled with new experiences and new possibilities. The quiet hum of contentment, once a distant dream, became my daily reality.